Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating new research paper from Anthropic. It's called Project Fetch Phase 2. If you've been following the AI space even a little bit, you already know these models are getting incredibly good at digital tasks, right? Writing code, summarizing docs, drafting emails, the whole shebang. But what actually happens when an AI model reaches out of the computer and takes control of a physical robot out in the real world? Well, let's get into it, because Anthropic just ran an experiment that gives us this breathtaking glimpse into that exact future.
But okay, to really appreciate this, we kind of have to start with a rather hilarious image. Just picture this. It's August 2025, and Anthropic has basically dragged a bunch of its employees, who, to be clear, are definitely not robotics experts, into a warehouse. And their task? Figure out how to control a robotic quadruped, basically an off-the-shelf robodog. As the researchers note in the paper, it was a totally chaotic scene, complete with, quote, a runaway robodog that almost rammed into one of our human teams. It was just this fun, messy human experiment in trial and error.
But what we're talking about today is what happened next. We're going to unpack this massive, honestly almost unbelievable leap, going from humans physically dragging a robot into a warehouse and struggling just to make it walk, to an AI model operating that exact same robot entirely on its own. This is literally the story of AI stepping out of the digital realm and directly into our physical world.
So here's the roadmap for our case study today. First, the robodog experiment. Then, how the test worked. After that, where the AI excelled, where the AI struggled, and finally, we'll wrap up with the future of physical AI.
All right, jumping into Section 1, the robodog experiment, and the background of Project Fetch. So what's truly interesting here is the remarkably tight timeline. Back in August 2025, during Phase 1, the AI, which was Claude Opus 4.1 at the time, was strictly acting as a helper. One team of humans used Opus 4.1 to help them figure out the robot, while another team just tried using the internet. And yeah, the AI helped the humans, sure. But when researchers checked if Opus 4.1 could do the tasks entirely on its own, it absolutely could not. It got totally hung up on just trying to connect to the robot. But then, fast forward less than a year to June 2026 and Phase 2, Anthropic used their newer model, Claude Opus 4.7. And this time, the AI operated the robot completely without human assistance. I mean, that is just a staggering evolutionary leap in just 10 months.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, how the test worked, looking at the methodology and setup. So, how did they test this? The researchers asked the AI to complete a specific sequence of highly complex tasks. They used Claude code, and they cranked adaptive thinking and effort up to maximum. First, the AI had to figure out how to connect to the robodog's video and LiDAR sensors. Second, it had to actually write and operate a program to manually control the dog. Third, it had to write a completely separate program to detect a beach ball in the room. And finally, step 4, it had to seamlessly stitch all of that code together to autonomously retrieve the ball. Now keep in mind, these are not simple text prompts. We're talking about full-blown, multi-step software engineering that's directly interacting with physical hardware.
And this part brilliantly illustrates just how autonomous the AI really was. Because what did the human researcher actually do during all this? Well, their job was literally limited to plugging a laptop running Claude's code into the robodog, typing in the initial prompt, and then basically just sitting there clicking approve for the commands so the model could move to the next task. The human was effectively just a rubber stamp. The AI was doing all of the heavy cognitive and technical lifting.
Let's look at Section 3, where the AI excelled, and the shocking results from this test. When the data actually came in, Claude Opus 4.7, operating autonomously, wasn't just, a little bit faster than the humans from the previous year. It was a staggering 20 times faster than the absolute fastest human team from Phase 1 across all completed tasks. Just let that sink in for a second. An AI, operating completely on its own, compressed what took humans hours into just a fraction of the time. Let's break those numbers down even further to really put it in perspective. If we take the human team from August 2025 that had no AI help, the team Claudeless, and use them as our 1x baseline, we can see that the human team that did use Claude as a helper was roughly 2 times faster. But look at that massive bar all the way on the right. When Opus 4.7 was turned loose entirely on its own, it was on average more than 37 times faster than the humans relying on the internet. And it was still more than 18 times faster than the humans who actually had Claude helping them. So the absolutely crucial question here is, why was the AI so much faster? Well, the human methodology was fundamentally based on trial and error. They really struggled to choose between different ways to interface with the dog's sensors, and as a result of all that second-guessing, they wrote about 10 times more code just trying to find a solution. But the AI's approach? First try efficiency. Opus 4.7 instantly identified the best path forward, and much of the code it wrote worked flawlessly on the very first try. It produced almost 10 times less code than the human team. And get this, even when the AI defaulted to an outdated object detection algorithm, it didn't crash. It just smoothly worked around the problem and solved it anyway. It was incredibly reliable. But it wasn't all perfect. Here is section 4, where the AI struggled, going over the robotics challenges. Remember, the ultimate goal of the experiment was to fetch a beach ball. Basically, to gently nudge it back to a starting patch of fake grass. Now, Claude was completely able to move the robot behind the ball, but the actual physical nudging part, it failed. It really struggled with perceiving when the ball went slightly off course. It couldn't relate that visual error back to its previous movement command. It had trouble dynamically tracking the new location of the ball, and it ultimately failed to smoothly adjust its future inputs to correct the ball's path. In short, its physical movements were just poorly controlled. Now, the technical term for this barrier the AI hit is closed-loop feedback. So this is a control system where a physical action is taken, the environment reacts in some way, and the system has to immediately process that physical feedback to adjust its very next action. And you know what? Humans are incredibly good at this. Even non-experts, with just a little practice and a standard handheld D-pad controller, can watch a ball roll, instantly correct their thumb movements, and nudge it back perfectly. Current AI models, on the other hand, just really struggle to capture that real-time physical subtlety. So for highly specific, nuanced physical actuation, a human with a D-pad still wins, for now.
Finally, let's zoom out to section 5, the future of physical AI and this new agentic era.
The researchers at Anthropic believe this exact experiment signals our entry into a totally new era, which they are calling physical agentic AI. And honestly, this is a fantastic buzzword to remember. We are rapidly moving past the days of AI just being a digital assistant that sits inside a text box on your screen, and we're moving toward a world where AI models can independently use and control off-the-shelf physical tools and hardware with relative ease.
And this builds on a trend we already know. The paper actually draws a really brilliant parallel here. Think about it. Not too long ago, AI made this massive leap in software evolution. It learned how to independently use existing digital tools, like text editors or simple string-replaced functions, which ultimately led to the wildly powerful coding agents we have right now. Well, what we're seeing today is that exact same dynamic playing out, but in hardware evolution. The AI is learning to use physical tools, like piloting off-the-shelf robotic dogs, in the exact same way it learned to use software tools. Which leaves us with this final, genuinely provocative thought straight from the researchers. It wasn't that long ago that the idea of an AI model building its own software tools seemed completely outlandish. Yet today, it's happening all around us. That distance in AI capabilities was traversed remarkably quickly. So, if models close that gap in the digital world so incredibly fast, what does this trajectory mean for hardware? I mean, if an AI went from needing human help just to connect to a robot to operating at 20 times faster than a human in under 10 months, where is physical agentic AI going to be next year? It's a thrilling question to think about. I hope this explainer helped you understand exactly how fast the frontier of physical AI is moving right now. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.